cut those taxes.
Excuse me, it's important you answer the questions because you want people's votes. How much extra money would you raise by changing the current corporation tax and capital gains tax structures?
Andrew, we've talked about in absolute detail about the current tax system, and we said actually that the money that the decisions that the government have made and the decisions on where they're spending current money is completely inappropriate.
So how much would you save?
You've cut 50%. In my constituency, both of my councils have seen over 50% cuts to their budget. So all of the people that need support are in acute services now, crippling our NHS.
So you would be able to give them more money by changing the corporation tax and changing the capital gains tax to raise more money.
You don't cut taxes when you need that money to help. You should be investing.
You don't know, do you?
You should be investing.
You just don't know.
Angela Rayner is the political equivalent of showing up to a chess match with a hammer and then wondering why everyone's confused. If there's a Mount Rushmore for unqualified ambition, she's already being fitted for a spot right between Liz Truss and that lettuce that outlasted her. And just when we thought politics couldn't get more embarrassing, in comes Angela Rayner, charging through Parliament like a bulldog in stilettos with zero sense of irony.
Make of her then as the Deputy Prime Minister. Do you trust her?
No.
Why not?
I think she's a load of rubbish. She doesn't do anything for Ashton.
What do you make of these secret proposals by Angela Rayner, the MP for this area, to increase taxes?
I heard it on the news this morning, and it's just another thing that the Labour government are doing. They're just taxing the people, just the same as Conservatives. We need a change.
It kind of sums her up, to be honest.
Yeah.
She's a very unequivocal woman who, I don't want to get too far into this, but nah. I don't think she's doing us any favours in terms is a proper Labour Party.
As long as I can get up in the morning, I'm happy.
Now let's talk about her big moment with Andrew Neil. Yes, that monumental televised public dissection, where Angela tried to string together thoughts while Andrew Neil, professional intellectual shark, smelled blood before she even opened her mouth, watching her fumble through basic economic. Questions was like seeing someone try to defuse a bomb with a fork and sheer optimism. And spoiler alert, it exploded in slow motion, in high definition, with subtitles for the politically confused.
Can I bring you back to my question? What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money. Okay. This is what Jeremy was talking about in Prime Minister's question today. You've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend. And it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. People know about the ageing population for some time. We've cut the criteria so people can't get community care. We treat our older people at the moment like dogs. It's a disgrace. We shouldn't do that.
But, excuse
we should
me,
be investing and putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing a point because we need that money. We need that money at the moment.
Would you reverse it? Hold on.
Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
But I'm asking you, would you reverse the cut in corporation?
Can I bring you back to my question? What would Labour do? Well, we've already talked about some of the government's taxation decisions around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, and corporation tax. Where money's been handed away that we frankly need to spend, it's not just about an ageing population. That excuse is phony. Everyone's known about it for years, yet we've cut criteria so people can't get community care and treat our older citizens like dogs, which is a disgrace. Investment should go into primary services, and while cuts to corporation tax miss the point, Angela Rayner, in her rarest political breed, seems proud of her lack of preparation, as if it's some working-class badge of honour. Look at me, I don't need facts, I've got vibes. But the vibes, Angela, have left the building and know they didn't pay union dues on the way out, so don't bother chasing them for tax.
But I'm telling you, Andrew, that our priority is
you're not telling me the question.
I am. I'm
answer.
saying that the cuts in corporation tax, the cuts in inheritance tax, the cuts in capital gains tax.
But what's the cut in capital gains tax?
But what's really important, Andrew...
No, excuse me, I'm asking you a question. What's the cut in the capital gains tax?
They've cut the capital gains tax. They did that. They did that as part of the coalition government.
No, they raised
the
capital gains tax in the coalition government.
Well, what I'm saying, Andrew, and
what you're saying is wrong. They raised the capital gains tax to 28%.
What I'm saying is that they've given tax cuts to absolutely the richest in the country at the same time where they've told the poorest people in this country over the past... It is true. At the same time that you've told the people...
Remember when she said she wanted to level up the country? Yeah, apparently that means dragging everyone down to the level of her own political understanding, which hovers somewhere between Peppa Pig economics and I saw a TikTok about inflation once. Angela treats facts the way cats treat water, confused by them, suspicious of them, and determined to avoid contact at all costs.
Today should have been a breeze for Keir Starmer, the first Labour Prime Minister to address a Labour conference in 15 years, a return to power with a stonking majority, the Tories reduced almost to a rump and mired in yet another interminable leadership contest. But it's far from a breeze. Labour's honeymoon ended before there was even time to pop open the champagne. Labour's already losing ground in the polls. It's already lost its lead in Scotland. And Starmer's personal ratings are tanking. The fragility of winning a massive majority on just over a third of the vote, it's an unprecedented outcome in a British election, has been exposed.
Let's not forget her most beloved talent, shouting over people in Parliament like she's auditioning for the lead role in a kitchen argument. Because nothing screams future Prime Minister like turning every policy discussion into an episode of Real Housewives of Westminster, she's like a foghorn. With opinions, loud, jarring, and mostly weather-dependent. Meanwhile, Andrew Neil, being the human MI scanner that he is, actually asked her questions. Unforgivable, really. As if he didn't know she was only there for slogans, not substance. It was like giving someone a driving test when they thought they were on a bus tour, and the poor woman looked like she was trying to summon economic theory through sheer willpower, praying a Keynesian quote might appear in the ceiling tiles.
Almost everything folks don't like about this Labour government was started under the Tories, which makes voters reluctant to give the Conservatives much of a hearing and certainly undermines whatever it is Tory shadow ministers are saying. It's striking that so much of today's political dialogue is now between Labour and Reform, with the Tories marginalised or even excluded from the conversation. The polls tell their own dire story for the Tories, the latest ones of them on 16 to 18%, an historic low, with Reform pushing 30%.
Every time Angela Rayner opened her mouth, it was like watching a game show where the prize is basic comprehension, and she keeps hitting the buzzer without knowing the rules. You could practically hear the rusty gears turning in her head as she flipped through an imaginary binder labelled emergency. Buzzwords for clueless politicians, producing words like fairness, working people, and the classic Tories bad. Each one less connected to the question than the last. It was less an interview, and more someone freestyling through a GCSE economics exam after pre-gaming with wine coolers, her answers structured like a TED Talk, written by an AI trained exclusively on protest signs and inspirational Instagram quotes. GDP clearly standing for good day, pet, fiscal. Responsibility sounding like a brand of oat milk, and honestly, you'd get a more consistent economic theory from a drunk uncle yelling at a slot machine.
I had to endure it as a ginger, so I've got one up there. I've seen firsthand the difference that makes, and so has Keir. We grew up in different ends of the country and at different times. Not too different. But we endured the same insecurities and hardship that so many working people face. I guess the one difference is, though, I had to endure it as a ginger. So I've got one up.
Angela's strategy. When logic fails, yell louder. When a question hits too close to actual knowledge, pivot to billionaires hoarding gold like dragons, and pretend that volume equals vision. It's not just political theatre, it's a clown car with a foghorn in the driver's seat and no brakes in sight. And let's talk qualifications. Her defenders love to boast she rose through the ranks like a balloon in a wind tunnel. Yes, she started as a care worker, which is commendable, but that doesn't automatically equip you to run a country. That's like hiring your Uber driver to pilot a Boeing 747 because they once dropped you off at the airport. Angela often describes herself as real, As if that's a policy platform. But realness doesn't equal readiness. I'd like my surgeon to be real too. But I'd also prefer they didn't think open heart surgery was a metaphor.
Keir Starmer, a pledge is not an indication. A pledge is a word, is your word. It's a pledge.
Bit collective
it's
action.
Not in your pledge.
Well, the pledge is 3 lines, Andrew. You're asking me for more detail and I'm giving it to you.
Well, but the fact is the 2016 Trade Union Act, when it comes to cribbing and curtailing union power, is not the key legislation, because you're hiding behind the process.
The Labour Party
Why don't you do what the other candidates do and tell? Don't Labour members have a right, as they decide whether to vote for you or not, they want to know where your money's coming from?
I've been asked that many times. I've said it's coming from trade unions, from crowdfunding, from individual donations.
Who's your biggest donor?
It's coming from those 3. One of my biggest donors was put up on the website, I think, yesterday.
Right, that's one of the lawyer.
There's this weird celebration of incompetence dressed up as authenticity. Oh, she's just like us. No, she's not. She's in Parliament, and we're out here paying taxes to cover the cost of her bad decisions and even worse hairstyles. Every time Angela Rayner opened her mouth, it felt like tuning into a chaotic new quiz show called Guess That Policy. Except the host doesn't know the rules, the audience is crying, and the prize is national embarrassment. And out it came: fairness, hard-working families, levelling up, and of course the ever-dependable Tories bad, no matter what the question was.
With allies on the UN resolution, we've got to have a government in Syria, a political solution that protects civilians and infrastructure, because as we've seen with the Assad regime, it has been unstable. We want to see that stability and we'll work towards that with our allies.
Bloody dar. I mean, what the hell is that all about? All she's doing there, she's being drilled by the media advisors, the press office. Right, just say something about the UN resolution and we're sticking to that and we're working with allies. Very difficult, fast-moving situation. In other words, she didn't have the first clue what
Ask her about inflation, and she's off on a tangent about someone's nan not being able to heat the kettle. Ask her about GDP, and you'll get an emotional speech about Greg's sausage rolls and regional bus routes. Her responses had all the coherence of a horoscope written by an elaborate AI. It was like watching a TED Talk scripted by a malfunctioning Etch-a-Sketch. GDP must mean good day. Pet, fiscal policy, clearly a TikTok dance trend. And honestly, your average houseplant could recite more nuanced monetary theory just by photosynthesizing near an economics textbook. Angela's go-to move was shouting over the question as if volume might unlock the secrets of the universe. And if the interviewer dared to probe deeper, she'd detour into some Denzian tale about evil billionaires bathing in champagne while miners eat gravel.
Scottish phrase earlier in this interview, let me use another one. People are simply scunnered with Labour and the Tories. They don't want to vote for you. And indeed, if you look at these polls, Labour on 25, you on 15, 16, your combined share of the vote is the lowest ever. They just don't want to vote Tory truths. They're not listening. They don't care what your truth is. Almost everything people have come to dislike about this government, this Labour government, started on...
It's politics by way of pantomime, where facts are optional and flair is compulsory, and every question is met with the raw energy of someone whose only training was binge-watching angry Facebook videos. It's not policy, it's panto, and Angela's got the lead role, complete with jazz hands and a foghorn. Let's be honest, she's never met a soundbite she didn't want to adopt and raise as her own. Working people, cost of living, social justice. Translation: she's that kid in school who didn't do the homework but still got picked as class president because she had energy. And now she's using that power to lead the Labour Party into the abyss, with all the confidence of someone who just discovered spell check.
Your government created the most expensive domestic electricity in the world. That's what we have to pay in our households. The most expensive, even higher than Germany, whose energy policies have been even more bonkers than Europe.
Remember her speeches at party conferences? Of course not, because no one does. They're the political version of fast food. Forgettable, greasy with buzzwords, and guaranteed to cause indigestion. It's all delivery, no digestion, style over substance, volume over value, slogans over strategy. Angela doesn't do nuance, she does blame. The Tories, inflation, Tories, the NH crisis, Tories, your milk's gone off. Probably the Tories. She's turned political discourse into a permanent blame game. A world where Labour never has to take responsibility because they've outsourced guilt to the other side of the aisle. And let's not forget her most famous policy tool, performative outrage. Every time something bad happens, she materialises on Twitter or outside Downing Street like an angry ghost, condemning it with all the substance of a Facebook post.